Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lifestyle with Dr. Moby. I'm Dr. Moby, and today we are honored with great guests. Let's welcome Sue Bowles. How are you, Sue?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, doctor?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining our show. So, tell us about yourself, Sue.
Sure. I live in Central Ohio, and I'm a master certified life coach. So I do have a lot of coaching clients that I work with. Who I work with people who are feeling stuck in life's transitions and want to see more happen in their life than what's happening right now. So I do that. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm also an author, and most of all, I'm a speaker. And my main message is simply that it's okay to not be okay. I want to help break down the stigma around mental health struggles because we all have them, and there's no reason to be ashamed about them. And the other thing I do is I empower people with helping to understand and wrap around the truth that you only have to be a step ahead to help the person behind you. I think a lot of times we get stuck feeling like I have to have it all figured out. Like I've got too much going on in my life. I can't help somebody else. And that's a real lie that limits everything we can do and how we can help somebody else. So that's the other thing that I really purpose to spread, the message I try to spread.
Okay, great. I think all are great messages, and we're gonna go one by one. So, tell me, how did you start in this field?
I started out as a speaker a number of years ago. I have a lot of trauma in my background. I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. I'm a childhood rape survivor. I was raised in an alcoholic home. My folks divorced after 24 years of marriage. There was other sexual abuse. I've been, from a neighborhood kid. Um, I've been suicidal twice. So I have a lot of mental health struggles and trauma in my background. And it took a long time to do the hard work of healing, and it's very hard work. But as I started to realize that I am worth it and I'm worth the struggle because I have something to offer, that kept me going. So as I healed, then the power became in sharing my story with others, because that's where I started to realize that if I'm still going through this, I've at least gotten through some of it, so I can help somebody else who's just starting to ask the questions or struggle with whatever's going on in their lives or struggle with the doubts. And from I started speaking in a health class at a local high school, sharing my story about eating disorder recovery. And then that went into starting to present at state and national level conferences. I speak at conferences and do online summits right now, and looking forward to getting back to doing in-person events. And then as the healing continued, it became my book. So I wrote my first book in 2019. It was self-published. It won second place nonfiction in a book contest last year, and it just continued to morph. Last year, I started doing podcasts. I did, I think, 35 podcasts this year. I'm on track to probably do about 50 this year, and it just continues to grow. So each year just kind of builds on the other.
I love your energy that you're doing podcasting, and one thing led to another, and
Hmm.
that's how you grow. And like I myself, I never thought I will be doing this, but I started, lost 100 pounds, and then I mean, I had stressful time too, and being a provider, you know how stressful it is.
Hmm.
So, but I then, developed into this author, and then did a show for somebody. That's how I ended up doing shows after shows.
Mm.
And like you said, we start with something, and then we never stop, because we get positive vibes. You feel great. I mean, great. I think your message, I really want to emphasize everybody who's listening, is that Sue had a great point that a lot of people don't know, is that they think that we can't help this, that because that we have so much stuff going wrong with us, and we are messed up, whatever. Right? Yeah, but the reality is, actually, it takes little bit courage. It takes a little bit courage, more compassionate. I think all it needs is listening skill a little bit, and you need to just pay attention to. And if you have, everybody has a good heart, just open your heart, just open your beautiful heart, and let people see that. And
Mhm.
I think anyone, even you don't have to be doctor, you don't have to be provider, you don't have to write medication. Somebody do help, right? A lot of things with mental health works is your emotional friend support, family support,
Mhm.
and well wishers. What do you think?
I fully agree. I think I'm working on my second book right now,
Mhm.
and it talks. The title is "This Much I Know: It's Okay to Not Be Okay." It's the second part in my series, and the idea behind that is that we're caught up wearing a lot of masks. We want a mask is something we put on, or an image we portray to someone so that they think that we're someone that we're really not. And for me, my mask became activity. I was hurting so bad inside, and I didn't know how to express it. And it boiled down to wanting to be validated, wanting to be seen, wanting to know that somebody cared. So for me, if I was seen, then I felt like somebody knew I existed. So my mask was that I could handle everything. I was strong. I could organize all these campus events, and nothing was wrong with Sue. And I was really dying on the inside, literally, because this is when I was active in my eating disorder. I was slowly killing myself through that because I wanted someone to care, and I didn't know how to ask for it.
Okay, and very important on eating disorder, we want to just educate, who's ever
Mhm,
listening. The eating disorder is really kind of misunderstood many levels.
mhm,
So I want to emphasize first, there is normal eating and then there is abnormal eating. So it can be both ways, as either people overeat or they undereat. So
mhm,
both are disorders, and then there is a problem with the image. So they have what they see, what they want out of. So there are different. Now, not to confuse all that with healthy eating, or if somebody wants to lose weight and normal and be for your health reason,
mhm,
uh, that is great. That is great, but there is a limit. Everything in moderation and limit, it looks good. So if you
mhm,
lose weight, it looks good, but if you lose so much that you are like really malnutrition, that's not weight loss. Same stands for overweight. If you really gain a lot of weight and you are hiding a lot of your stresses with food, then unfortunately you are really, in my opinion, making yourself vulnerable to all the diseases, right?
right. And I think it's real important for me to share with people that an eating disorder is about control and it's
Mhm.
about emotions. It is not about vanity. It's not a diet gone wrong.
Mhm.
And there people think there's like two or three big eating disorders. They think there's anorexia, bulimia, and overeating, but there are actually a large scope of them. Even intermittent fasting, which is a big thing right now, is considered a pre-disorder behavior.
Mhm.
So, and because again, you're starving your body.
Mhm.
If carbs are the only thing that give our brain energy, why would we deny our body the way it is designed? So the old adage, moderation and everything is key. I think the other thing is that within eating disorders, even folks go to the extreme with clean eating,
Mhm.
and that as well is considered an eating disorder because again it's gone to the extreme, but ultimately it has to do with emotions. And for me it had to do it for me it was rooted back in the childhood rape and not knowing how to express my emotions. I shut down at that moment in time. So for me, the way I describe it when I speak is that my brain was very warped out because it wasn't getting the nutrition that it needed to function properly. So it was misinterpreting everything. So for me, it was if I stayed busy, back to that activity mask I talked about, if I stayed busy, I didn't have to think. And if I didn't have to think, I didn't have to feel. And if I didn't have to feel, I didn't have to deal with my stuff. So that's how it all manifested for me. It shows up in different ways for different people. But the bottom line message is that there's hope and you don't have to stay stuck in that. And I am living proof that there's hope.
That is very nice. And so, would you like to share? your eating disorder specifics, or whether you were, how did it start and what really happened?
Sure, I'd be happy to, because this is why I speak, so that I can educate and break down the stigmas.
Mm,
For me, my eating disorder is one of those atypical ones. It is one of the other ones.
mm,
It's called OSFED, Other Specified Feeding and Eating Disorder. What that means, it used to be called EDNOS, which is eating disorder not otherwise specified, and it's in the DSM-5 and DSM-7, which is the R5, which is the Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders.
yeah,
And what that means is that I had disordered eating patterns, but they did not fully meet all the diagnostic criterion for either anorexia or bulimia or anything else. So I was in the catch-all group. So
mm,
you could not tell that I was underweight. You couldn't tell that I had an eating disorder. And that's one of the big myths and misunderstandings that's out there, is you don't know who has an eating disorder. You cannot tell and judge just by body display. You
yeah,
can't tell by what somebody looks like, what's
yeah,
going on the inside, because nobody knew that I had one, and I had one really bad. And for me, and I commented a minute ago that my brain wasn't functioning right. So because if you start off course, the longer you go on that course, the further off course you are. So I started off course a long time ago in
mm,
terms of not dealing with my emotions. And
mm,
then from that, starting to play the games, wear the masks, and I wore myself out trying to remember what I told who. And that's when I started realizing I can't do this forever. For me, my eating disorder ended up looking like this. When I was in college, that's where it really kicked in.
mm,
Because my brain wasn't functioning right from
mm,
from improper nutrition, I felt like everybody was looking at me. So I may have been hungry. Hunger is a natural body function. It's how your body tells you it needs some energy. There's nothing wrong with being hungry.
mm,
But for me, my brain interpreted it as may want to go up and get a second helping of food. But everybody, in quotes, in the cafeteria would look at me, and they would know that Sue had a need, because to be hungry, which is normal, to me was a sign of weakness, because it meant I had a need. And I had played the game and worn the mask that I didn't have any needs. I was strong. I had it together. There was nothing wrong with Sue. So
mm,
God forbid someone know that Sue was hungry. So
mm,
instead of going up and getting what I needed and what my body was asking for, I
mm,
dumped my tray and I got out of Dodge, and I learned to curb my hunger by snacking. That's how my eating disorder started showing up. And
mm.
I didn't actually go into recovery until 2016, when I started meeting with a dietitian. My counselor was on me about it. She'd been on me about it a number of times, and I was always able to sidestep it. But this time, she was not letting go. And I relented, and I'm so glad I did. And I didn't realize how bad it was until that first session with my dietitian, when she'd already done her intake, gave me the meal plan, asked me what I thought about it, and I started to cry because it seemed like it was so very much.
Mm. Well, I'm glad that you found help, but first of all, it takes a lot of courage to share, and also help a lot of folks out
Mhm.
there. And I think you have this beautiful point that a lot of people think black and white, but there are a lot of gray areas in between where
Mhm.
these diagnoses exist.
Right.
Like you said, you had the stresses. Every time you were stressed, you would just seek something to curb that, right?
Hmm.
Curb
Yep.
that
Yeah.
you don't want. So problem was the stress handling, right?
Hmm.
Was how you process those stress. And a lot of people ask me, and I said, stresses don't go away, never
Right.
will. Okay. Our levels differ. When we are kid, we have different stresses. When we are growing up, our stresses and struggles are different. Now when we are older, it's totally different.
Mhm.
um, it'll never be no stress. That does
Right.
not exist.
Right.
It's our approach to the stress has to change, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
So how we process, how we handle, and how we get out. it's matter is it's like so that approach has to be happening,
Right.
so we need to just focus
Hmm.
on that.
Right.
um, and stress is like any change in weather type situation. Weather
Hmm.
can be bad or good, but it
Hmm.
changes.
Hmm.
It'll never be a good weather or bad weather every day, right?
Right. Right. And I think for me, for what you're saying is very true. I have full support for that. And when it comes down to how we deal with the stress, it comes down to, first of all, being aware of yourself. What are the stressors in your life, and
Mm,
how are you responding? Your body tenses up from stress. I just did the small presentation on this at work yesterday, last week, and this week, about
mm,
your body stress, is tensing up in stress, and the pitch of your voice even gets higher from stress. And you
mhm,
may not even realize this is happening, but how do you deal with it? And one key way to deal with it is having a support system. For me, I have a counselor. I have been with the same counselor for 13 years now, and I have no shame over that, because
mm.
that is where I have finally found healing. I mentioned before, I'm a childhood rape survivor. A classmate raped me in first grade,
Oh
and I
my.
did not tell anyone until my senior year of college. And
Mm,
I didn't really start dealing with it until 2014.
mm,
When I finally started dealing with it, that's when my healing started to come.
mm,
That's when I also started having the courage to deal with my eating disorder, because they are intertwined.
mm, mm.
So,
And that is.
so how you deal with the stress is having that support system, your friends. But
Mhm,
definitely, there's nothing wrong with finding a life coach or a counselor to
mm,
help you work through things.
mm.
We all need it.
And it could be many times could be simple thing. For me to I found my stress to reduce during day is to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Every 30 minutes I just take 5-minute break.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So I just go maybe walk, just come back and come back to the desk.
Mm-hmm.
So for me is everything all I need, and I see myself back refocused and everything. So I think know yourself, know your body. No, it's very
Mm-hmm.
important. Know your body,
Right.
and one something might work for me and might work for Sue, but might not work for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with that. But
Right.
know your strengths and you know your weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So that is once you know that, then it is very easy for you to, and like you said, you should know what makes you happy, what keeps
Right.
you relaxed a little bit.
Right.
Or I mean, you can study that except eating junk food.
Yeah.
There are ways. I always say there are always solutions, and there are many more than one solution.
Mm-hmm.
Always figure out which solutions are better and which are not the best.
Right.
You can always tick mark and say, yeah, that is a solution. Some people do that. Every time they, like you said, every time they have stress, they will go and eat. That's a solution.
Mm-hmm.
But try to change it to a little healthier
Yeah.
option. And
Great point. If I can say real quick, one of
yeah.
my things for decades, my favorite snack has been chips and dip. I
Uh-huh.
love potato chips and dip. That's just my favorite thing.
Uh-huh.
And my mom passed away in October, and I was her caregiver for a number of years.
Mhm,
And it's been very difficult. I
mhm,
went in for my regular physical about 6 weeks after she passed,
mhm.
and when they did my blood work, my cholesterol jumped 30 points in one
Oh
year.
my
Yeah, and to the point my doctor put me on medicine. Now, and I've never been on medicine for cholesterol. Up to then, my numbers have been going down, getting into the range we wanted. So we're doing an experiment. And I told her, I said, I'm not convinced yet. I need to be on this full time. I think it's stress. And for those who may not understand, I learned some stuff. There's the stress hormone cortisol
God.
can negatively affect your cholesterol. So because my stress went through the roof and beyond, because I just lost my mom, we've been living together since 1997, and I was her caregiver for the last 6 years.
Mhm,
That's just a minor, issue in life. Um, so I didn't realize how much my stress. I was still eating okay. If anything, I was kind of backing off my eating. So I was getting with my dietitian every 2 weeks instead of our regular 3 weeks, just to make sure I stayed on track.
mhm,
And so anyway, so what my doctor agreed with is we talked about my numbers. I would do her 3-month med, then I'd be off at 3 months, And I go back in July, we're going to do another cholesterol check and then decide where things seem to have settled. But one of the things I've been working on with my dietitian in between here, starting in January actually, was that we added, she's been wanting me to. I wasn't willing to until now, but we're adding salad and fruits and vegetables. So almost every day for lunch, I have either a salad or some grapes or strawberries or something. And with that, I haven't really had my chips. And I say this, let me say this real quick. There's nothing wrong with potato chips. There's
Mm.
nothing wrong with
Yeah,
any food. Food
yeah.
has no morality. It is not good, it's not bad. It's a matter of the moderation and how much balance we have in it. For
Mm.
me, I was having chips every day, and having Lay's potato chips every day will just really screw with your cholesterol. But now, so I'm excited to go back and see her in July because I've made lifestyle changes. Now,
Mm.
yeah, that means that I'm making some better choices. I still have my chips periodically.
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
allowed to have my chips, but
Mm.
I've made changes too. So I just wanted to share that to your point.
No, that's a beautiful point. Thank you for sharing. Also, I want to again emphasize that I think the amount is the key.
Hmm.
Anything in moderation is the key, and you
Yep.
have to know the amount. There's nothing wrong with the chips, but
Right.
you know the amount you have to take. So, like I always give example of even water. I mean, I
Hmm.
have a few patients. Even they come and they say, they say, oh doc, I'm drinking X amount of water. I said, you sure? Why, I mean, there has to be moderation. And then we check the sodium is low. I said, don't do that. Okay, you don't have to really overcorrect your
Right.
water requirement, then you really have problem,
Right.
because your body cannot get rid of that. So moderation is the
Hmm.
key. You don't over drink and then kind of lower your sodium and everything,
Yeah.
electrolytes. You can do
And
that.
and at the
Mhm.
same time, you don't count monster drinks or Red
Mm.
Bull as fluids for the day
Yeah, yes, yeah. That's another important thing, is that you
or
don't
coffee.
do that. Yeah, yeah. And people forget that there is that there's a line between.
Hmm.
So every food has a limit, okay,
Right.
for your body to. And by the way, limit differs for everyone.
Hmm.
Some people might eat more and they are okay, but some might
Yep.
not. So it all comes to our genetic
Hmm.
makeup. It all comes to our how body is wired.
Right.
It all comes to how our body processes things.
Right.
Certain medication or things might not affect someone but really have bad effect on others.
Hmm.
Some people could be gluten sensitive, some
Right.
might not be, right? So
Right.
we have to be a little bit careful with that.
Hmm.
So but bottom message is, know your body and work with your body. There's nothing more powerful than that. And
Right.
I think the other thing is always emphasize is, take advantage of the nature. There's just so much positive energy out there. Go outside.
Hmm.
Human body was not made for indoors.
Right.
We are not snakes or anything that we live inside.
Right.
We have to go out. We need sunlight. We
Hmm.
need, our body really needs that.
Hmm.
And I tell example of birds and all the time is that, look, birds are not on medications, okay?
Hmm.
They wake up on time, they sleep on time, they eat on time. If you even try to feed them in the evening a lot, they will not eat. They
Right.
would literally not eat. But on the other hand, humans, if somebody asks to eat a steak late, they will love to even have that, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I think our rhythms, body clock, circadian rhythm, which is so essential for sleep, and so essential for hormones. Name
Right.
the hormones, growth hormones, your cortisol levels, your all the great hormones, even testosterone,
Hmm.
estrogen. Everything is regulated, perfectly regulated by the body, and the master
Yep.
clock is in the brain. Now, that clock has a 24-hour rhythm, and it knows when to secrete cortisol and when to secrete this. But if we mess it up, and if
Hmm.
we change every day, and if we change frequently, then it really gives such a wrong message to body,
Right.
because body doesn't know what to do.
Right.
So
Yep.
you can do that. Have a rhythm to your life, to
Yep.
waking up. have rhythm going out. And one way of adjusting the rhythm is this blue sky. The blue sky, there's a reason the sky is blue. It could have been green, but it's not. The blue light actually resets your brain back to normal. So every day your brain needs a resetting by 15-20 minutes. It has to be adjusted to know it's day and night. A lot of people are inside, and I'm sure you have experienced too, winter blues, right? So winter blues is a big phenomena, and it affects our mood tremendously. And we have to have a light therapy. We have to go out. So that's one of the reasons. So a lot of mood disorders actually are because we need social interaction. We need social. We need to go out, right?
Right. And especially now as COVID, the pandemic's not over by any means. But now that more people are getting vaccinated, and it seems they're starting to get a little bit of control over it, we're able to be outside and socialize more. And we're just now starting to see the mental health ramifications of the pandemic. And it's so critical to know that if you're struggling, if you're insecure, if you're not sure, if you're nervous about being around people, especially right now as things start reintegrating, that is normal. And you are not the only person going through that. And again, it's okay to talk about that with somebody. Go out to lunch with a friend and say, hey, man, what's it like for you? Because it's kind of freaking me out to be here without a mask on right now. All those things we've been conditioned to over the last year because we had to get through it. Now we're starting to come on the other side of it. But it's still going to kind of mess with our brains a little bit until we readjust to that again. So none of us have been through this before. No one in our lives lived through a 100-year pandemic. So we don't have anybody else to turn to for insight except our friends.
And that is so true. We will not know the effects of COVID for many years to come. Probably we will study them and we'll see that, oh my God, it was such a terrible time. And thankfully we are, knock on wood, we are above it. But to this point also very important is that to pay attention to your mental health. And also, if you need help, do not just do Dr. Google. You need to seek professionals like Sue and others. There's no shame. There's literally no shame. Everybody, you don't have to prove your strength that you can handle stresses. You can seek help, and there's no shame, no guilt about that. We all have difficult time. Everybody has some weakness. Just kind of get your help, and do not try to solve with alcohol or with drugs or with anything else. Get professional help, and there is no shame. Right.
And to that point, if I may say, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a certified master life coach, and I offer a 15-minute free consultation. So if people go to my website, it's just SueBowles.com, and Dr. Moby will have it in the notes. But it's just SueBowles.com. There's just a form there. Just fill that out. Get in touch with me, and I'll be in touch with you. We can set up time. We just talk for 15 minutes, see what you're struggling with, if I'm the best match to help you, and if something doesn't seem like I'm going to be the best match, I will do everything I can to help you find resources in your area, or with telehealth. There's so much opportunity there to reach out to people outside of your state as well. But whatever I can do to help you, that's what I'm here for. So please go to the website, fill out that form. We love to hear from you.
Okay, so if you can check that, is that the correct?
Perfect.
Website?
Yes.
SueBowles.com. So please check her website, get help. And also, I mean, if you are not nearby in that, but get a mental, specialist help and provider, and just call 911. They will help you if you really need medical advice. But my advice again and again, a lot of people try to solve by Dr. Google or drink or use drugs and even smoking. So please do not do that. There are better solutions than that. So take care, stay healthy, and keep watching our show. Thank you very much, Sue. It was wonderful. Thank you. God bless.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.